Are we live?
Yes. Hello, everyone. It's Michael Jaco with Unleashing Intuition Secrets. David Sereda is with us once again. We're just talking before the show. Some very fascinating things we're going to be covering. Of course, David is an intellectual mathematician, writer, whose work delves into the fascinating intersection of science, history, and religion. So we're going to be talking about a lot of that. 3I Atlas has been on everybody's mind. Like I said, we were just talking for the show. I've done some remote viewing, and I got the other day, just a couple of days ago, that we'd be getting communication with 3I Atlas. And I know that, David, you did a show with Sasha Stone that we were talking about, and you were talking about some of that. Do you want to delve into that? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Michael, and Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. I see your Christmas tree there.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so right now I'm actually sending out, you can see that blue quartz transmitter. I have a network of transmitters with a stereo power amp, and I've got like 300 feet of wire going out the windows to 3 huge trees. They're like 2 giant cedars and a huge mother spruce tree. And, you know, they are basically through the mycelium and the tree networks, I'm sending messages to 3I Atlas. And earlier this week, it was on Wednesday in my inner circle, right when I got to the end, and I was talking about how God as the architect in the Bible. So if you know your Bible, you'll know that God measures everything and everything has to be perfect. He doesn't tell Noah before the flood to build a big ship and put cows and deers in it, and he measures it. He says it has to be 300 cubits long. And so upon me saying the words, because everything has to be measured, the temple has to be measured, the staff has to be measured, and I spent years decoding the proper length of the staff of Moses and Aaron and got it perfect. Because the height of an antenna, because I believe the staff is a bio antenna, which means, you remember in the old days, and you know this, Michael, when we had rabbit ears on the TVs and you're watching, the baseball game, and, it gets all staticky. When you get your hand on the antenna, you got great reception, and somebody had to stand there because as soon as you let it goes back to snow. So our spine, which is made out of calcium and trace metals, in fact, calcium is a metal, and it's actually a fairly good conductor. So we are essentially a bioantenna. And when you touch a monopole antenna, which is if you read like in the book of Revelation, it says Jesus will rule with a rod of iron, meaning the staff is not made of wood. They were all made of metal. And therefore, if you calculate the height of an antenna, you can, with simple mathematics, you can determine the frequency of that staff, which I did. So theoretically, using trees as grounded antennas that are connected to plasma, I've been sending out messages like I'm doing right now. In fact, this message will reach you, Michael, in the Sierra Nevada, because you're right underneath me, through the mycelium. And at the speed of light, you're less than a second away from me right now, probably just a little bit of less than a second. So these signals go out. And what happened last week was this massive, on the words that God's, as an architect, the measurements had to be perfect. On the word perfect, there's this big flash of golden lightning and it's pitch black. Wow. And this was not like any ordinary power outage. First, in December, we don't usually get lightning storms. Like you get snow and some rain, but you don't see lightning like this, taking out power. So what happened is somebody who was on my webinar, which is actually someone who used to be my assistant, actually, I think I just saw a flash of lightning in the.
You did. That was we had thunder and lightning right then. Yep.
See, right on the words. Right, I just said the words, and we're plugged in right now. So she was in Vancouver, and we're not on the same power grid. 1 second later, the power went out in Vancouver, and I'll show you what those grid outages looked like that day because I actually got images. Where do I have them here? I think I have them. Okay, yeah, this is the window. So what's happening when this was the day 3i Atlas was closest to the Earth, the 19th, right? Or yeah, I think it was one day before, or the 19th.
Yep.
Whatever last Wednesday was. No, Wednesday was the 17th. So what happened is that we had this huge outage, and then here I finally got control of this. I was able to get images of the outage right under me. So this is right under me. So I'm right in here where my cursor is sort of going. I'm right up here. And literally in Montana and eastern Washington, eastern Idaho, there's Spokane, Washington. This is Idaho. All these places experienced power outage in that same moment. And here in British Columbia, we had, see, I'm down in this number 5 zone down here, 5, and this red zone here.
Okay.
All these places went out. In Vancouver, well, there were a couple 100,000 people in the lower mainland that went out. Again, when a lightning storm occurs, you don't get outages across vast distances like that, connected in time. So the fact that I'm actually epicenter, because there's power outages above me and there's power outages below me, and there's more power outages than even that. And then a friend of mine reported in Bethlehem, New Jersey, and this was also very recent. They said they don't normally see lightning and power outages. The whole town of Bethlehem went out, and we're going to be talking about Bethlehem tonight in 3i Atlas. So I take it as an electrical discharge communication, like saying, this is synchronistic. I'm in the mid zone, so everything below me and above me went out. So I'm basically epicenter in this particular outage, which took about 3 to 6 hours for everything to come back. And so I think that's part of how the synchronicities, work. When you said when you remote viewed, it's going to communicate. That's part of a communication. In fact, tonight we're doing the show, and you're getting lightning in Tahoe, and you're in the Tahoe area, right?
Yeah, it was raining earlier today, and we just started getting thunder and lightning just before we came on, and you just saw the one when you were speaking about it, and it's snow is coming down pretty heavy. It's supposed to come down really heavy tonight, so it's kind of like those cold and hot zones rub against each other and cause the lightning. But yeah, communication too, because I remember when you talked about when you said that the energy had gone out in that area. I'd done a show just before that, and I was talking about all of the atmospheric river that's bringing all the rain and causing problems, and then they talked about the power outage, and I was like, that power outage just doesn't seem right. And then when you spoke about it on Sasha's show, I was like, wow, okay, now I see what's going on here. It's a communication.
Yeah, they're happening all over. I mean, again,
San Francisco had 1/3 of its power out. I think last night. So.
San Francisco did last night. So
yeah.
So the 20th. So let me pull my screen up, so people can see where 3i Atlas actually is right now. So this is what it looks like out there, and then we're going to go into it's really funny today. It was actually yesterday, Avi Loeb, who's the Harvard astronomer. We rely on him and other astronomers for data on 3i Atlas. But you could see he was really leaning towards this was a mothership the size of a city. And he basically posted an article, almost like a kid throwing a tantrum, that 3i Atlas, let us down. It didn't do anything on its closest day to Earth. And that's just not true at all. It's just that astronomers are looking with this prejudice that somehow, an extraterrestrial civilization is going to circumvent and bypass what we know about the ancient history of our planet and the early gods and goddesses who visited here. And with the arrival of this new film, for example, The Day of Disclosure, which I've seen, once you can accept that UFOs are real and they're happening, the stories of the gods and the goddesses don't look like myths anymore. Like in fact, even the goddess Isis, I'm reading a book on her right now, a very scholastically written book. All the temples of worship for her were not only in Lower Egypt, and at the time of Moses, actually, the entire Palestine, Bethlehem included, going up into Syria, was included in the Egyptian kingdom. So that was all Egypt. And when Alexander the Great comes in the 3rd, 4th century, he introduces Greek mythology in what's known as Hellenism, and the area gets influenced by Greek, which is why all of your canonized Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are written in Greek. They're not written in Latin, which is the language of the Roman Empire. They're written in Greek. So then when the Romans come in, this region, including the Palestine, is really carrying the philosophy of the ancient Egyptian world. And it's not what modern Christians would think it really is. In fact, Three-Eye Atlas is really going to make this crystal clear for us. So when you look at here, I can pull up my screen where it is so people can see it, and then I can show you what I've been able to get as far as manifestations of its messages. So here we go. I think here it is. This is where it is. So this is my map of Three-Eye Atlas this is the 19th. So you can see Earth here. We have this other 24P Chalmas comet, which is closer to Earth than Three-Eye Atlas is. But this, when we backtrack, just kind of a short recap, when I go back, so I click on my date here, and I go back to, remember, October the 1st, which is the first day of Yom Kippur, which is the day for the Israelites that they celebrate in what they used to celebrate in the Holy of Holies temple in Jerusalem, the Day of Atonement of Sins, marking when Moses received the second set of the tablets of the law. So you can see there was an alignment between Three-Eye Atlas, Mars, Mercury, and the Sun. Mercury being the messenger, Mars being the planet of war. On that date, this is Yom Kippur. This is a religious date on the current calendar, and then this is Yom Kippur ends on the 2nd. The alignment is starting to go out, and then Three-Eye Atlas was physically the closest to Mars on the 3rd, right? But the 1st is when Trump turned off the government. The federal government was shut down, and the Mars HiRISE camera was turned off. We couldn't access the best images that all astronomers were waiting for. Were supposed to come from that camera, the Mars HiRISE camera, orbiting Mars, and we couldn't see those photographs for a very long time, which means they had plenty of time to edit them or come up with fake images that they didn't want us to see, right? So that's a recap. So, and then when we come to November the 4th, the 3rd and 4th, Three-Eye Atlas was paired with Venus. You see right here? So why isn't Venus over here to the left? Why isn't it over to the right? Why isn't it on the opposite side? They're paired. And this shows how Three-Eye Atlas works perfectly in its synchronicities. And then when you come to December, you see how Earth is getting closer. When I click the 12, 13, and Atlas is getting away, it's already holding its closest position to Earth very well in this cat and mouse chase game where Earth gets closer and Atlas gets further away. So the fact that the 19th is called its closest position to Earth is very precise, but it's going to hold that position all the way to the 25th. And then suddenly on the 26th, it releases from that holding pattern. Wow. So what I did is I mapped the angles, and the angles on our dates are all mind-blowing. And this is part of, I'm just going to pull up my page here and go to my Medium page, and you're going to see how it really works. And so let me just go to my share screen here. And I've got a lot of articles on my Medium page. And my current research and data is really ahead of everything that I can even present yet. So share screen. There we go. Okay, there's my Medium page here. Okay, so we're going to go through this, and you're going to see, I mean, Avi Loeb throwing a tantrum saying that it's done nothing is because, from a scientist perspective, who's rather myopic and doesn't believe in the gods or the old religions or the God, and Christ. He doesn't believe in any of this. So, but when we look at what we know, this is really quite iconoclastic, what I'm going to show you here. So in the center where my balloon is the position of the Great Pyramid. On the summer solstice, which is the opposite of the winter solstice, the sun rises at Bethlehem and Jerusalem, respectively, and in the angle of 26 degrees to the rising position in the east of the sun and the ecliptic plane, which carries all of our planets. And it sets at 26 degrees in the west. So this is your summer solstice rising and setting position. And I think I demonstrated before on your show what happens at this angle, because you're going to see 3i Atlas is going to demonstrate what actually happens at these angles. So when I come to mapping the winter solstice, the sun rises in the east, but 26 degrees below my midline here, which is my north latitude of the Great Pyramid, which is 29.97, which is the speed of light, actually, by a factor of 10,000. And so it's 26 degrees above and 26 degrees below, and just a shaving less is the slope angle of the Great Pyramid itself. So this is what our sun does. But what's amazing is in the winter solstice, and this is huge what I'm about to say, at the Jerusalem Temple and Bethlehem, respectively, at this angle, if you're sitting there, the sun sets today at the Great Pyramids from where the birthplace of Christ is recorded. Wow. And the Jerusalem Temple. So that means the Great Pyramid, and this is what I believe, and this is what Peter Lemaitre, who wrote the Great Pyramid Decoded, in the 1970s, it's actually the missing temple to the Lord God in the book of Isaiah, chapter 19. So if you read chapter 19, you'll understand that, like, even the fact that when Jesus is born and the archangel appears to his parents and says to bring the child into Egypt doesn't make a lot of sense, because they're already in Egypt, because Bethlehem is still in Egyptian territory, although barely, because it's at the border. Still, it's technically still a conquered territory by the Romans, which is an Egyptian conquered territory. But the temple remains the proof. The fact that the Jerusalem Temple and the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where Jesus was entombed and resurrected, is here. So if you're standing there today, winter solstice, and happy winter solstice to everybody, the sun is setting at the three pyramids in Giza. Nobody knows this. Nobody knows this. In fact, I barely mentioned this on Sasha Stone. So this diagram of the rising and setting is very important, because 3i Atlas on the 29th of November made this diagram. So its jet angle here and its anti-tail here are 26 degrees above my midline, and this streaming set of what he called, him in his own words, what must have been an ejection by 3i Atlas of smaller subcraft going incredibly fast, produced the same angle. This is 52 degrees between these dots down here and these dots up here. Now to the left, my angle is a little bit shorter. And so when I put that graph, I have a different article that explains that on here. I see the same thing on the right-hand side, and on the left-hand side, because my angles are shorter, I measured it like a solar clock. And the date 3i Atlas did this on the 29th of November, like a solar clock, this particular angle is the date the picture was taken.
Wow. Good.
And there's no way this could have been a satellite streaking by. I actually demonstrated why that is, because the photographer stacked over 16 images, and you're looking at, if you look up at the moon and you make a square on half the size of the moon, that's how far you're zoomed in. So if a satellite streaked by, it would streak by in a second or less, and the exposures were 100 seconds to gain the luminosity required to see stars and light. So if it streaked by in less than a second and you stack 16 images on top of it, there's not enough light there from that satellite to even create these very bright streaking lines in here. Not at this particular exposure, because I know the exposure. I researched the actual exposure, and I used to be a professional darkroom photographer in the old days, so I know a lot about film. So Loeb was really stumbled by this because to understand how fast these smaller streaking white lines are produced by something going by, the distance it's covering is so huge, the velocity on these ejecta would be enormous. In fact, way faster than UAP calculations on the Tic Tac in the Nimitz incident, which is somewhere, depending on the data you have, over 35,000 miles an hour. So this is way faster than that. So why did it do this? So on the 19th of December, and I did this in the same astronomy program that relies on JPL data. My base of my protractor is the trajectory, the purple line here, and Earth. So from Earth to 3i Atlas is 26 degrees. And that is the number of the angle between the Great Pyramid that runs through Bethlehem, the birth rate, and respectively Jerusalem, because at that distance, the angle doesn't change more than a tenth of a degree, actually. So from 3i Atlas to Earth is 64 degrees, but from Earth to 3i Atlas is 26 degrees. So why is it doing this most sacred angle that marks the birth of Christ on the date of its closest to Earth? Well, what happened is this astronomer here, who was actually an amateur astronomer, captured this moment when 3i Atlas produced this incredible tail and anti-tail at this angle, which I put in my protractor is a perfect 26 degrees. Perfect. And that angle here this is from Peter Le Mesurier's work, runs from the Great Pyramid to the birthplace of Christ. And in this temple here, in this temple shot here, this is in the Dendera temple south of the Great Pyramids, where these temple priests are holding these, they look like transmitters, similar to what I'm doing right now. Behind me, I've got the blue light that people see behind me. I've got a quartz tube transmitter, and I'm transmitting to 3i Atlas right now. And I think that's what these tubes with cords coming into them were doing. But the point is, why are they tilted at 26 degrees? And the 26 degrees gets more and more amazing. And I'm gonna fulfill.
This is amazing. I bet I've seen that in the Dendera temple, and I always wondered, exactly what that was. So the angles.
Oh, you've been there?
Sense. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh God, I want to go there because Dendera temple has a huge secret, and I know what it is. But I got to take people there slowly, like really slowly, right? Because So this is Christmas Day, December 25th, which again is 3 days after the winter solstice on most years. This year it's 4 days after. And 3i Atlas to Earth is the Great Pyramid angle, the surface of the Great Pyramid, 51.853972 degrees. And the counter, or the complementary angle, is 38.146. So it's for the three pyramids at Giza, they slowly migrate between 38.14 and they get really close to 39 degrees. And that's a huge story. So Why is the Great Pyramid angled to Earth on Christmas Day? Again, the thesis in Peter de Missouri's book, The Great Pyramid Decoded, is the Great Pyramid is not Egyptian, but it is. It is and it isn't. Because remember, the at the time of Moses, all of it was Egypt, the whole thing. So on Orthodox Christmas Day, which is actually for the Egyptians is the 8th of January, and for a lot of the Orthodox churches, it's the 7th, which extends into the 9th. It will be between 38 and 39 degrees from 3i Atlas, which is the complementary angle to the Great Pyramid, but it's also known as the angle of resurrection. And I'll explain to you how incredible that is. You see, we can see here, when I measure the angle of the three pyramids, they're slowly migrating. When we get to Menkaur's pyramid, it's the complementary angle is 38.659, right? So you're so close to 39 degrees there. And then the middle Khafre's pyramid is the complementary angle is 38.16 degrees. And Khufu's pyramid, the Great Pyramid, the complementary angle is 38.14. So that means the surface of the three pyramids, as they're built over time, are tracking something in the heavens above that over time, due to precession of the equinoxes, which is a 26,000 year cycle, you're going to see that number 26 again. There's a reason for why it's 26 degrees. And then you can start to understand what's going on here. So there's the Great Pyramid again, when it was encased in its white limestone, 144,000 casing stones. It's shown like a brilliant diamond in the sunlight, and all of this is actually happening now. This astronomer here, just make sure you're seeing what I'm seeing. Known as it's called Liena Dreams, and this person has access to big telescopes and logs into them and decides to take a picture of 3i Atlas and run it through an actual astronomy algorithm software to see what the core. Nobody has ever seen the core of 3i Atlas. We've seen geometry manifesting in the local halo around it, but we've never seen the core. And this is what this astronomer found, is it kind of looks like a baseball diamond home plate. It's a polygon, meaning many angled geometry. And this is really stunning because I took it into a photo program and I mapped the angles of the polygon. And there it is. The Great Pyramid of Egypt angle right here, that's the slope angle, and the complementary angle 38.146 right here, on two different hemispheres of the core geometry, which means 3i Atlas is exhibiting at its core. Avi Loeb doesn't even know about this because the astronomer here used a software to collect data from the light coming out of the core, and the variances of the light gave it the geometry. So this astronomer actually read my article and was quite stunned because this astronomer, again, when you understand how scientists kind of remove themselves from ancient wisdom and knowledge and religion, they think that an extraterrestrial civilization has no connection to a spiritual phenomena and what we would call ancient archaeoastronomy, which is the alignment of temples for the ancient peoples, including the ancient Hebrews and the ancient Egyptians, to the stars, which we know they did. So why am I seeing the Great Pyramid in its complementary angle here, and yet it's exhibiting it on those three dates? Its closest position to Earth, Western European Christmas, and Orthodox Christmas. Why is it doing that? To me, it's just getting painfully obvious. But, to the person who refuses to see this, it doesn't seem to know what it's doing because it's just going to ignore this, right? So then you come to this article here I have, which is the where 3i Atlas is going next, which is Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
The big moment, and where we can see it happening is on again Orthodox Christmas, the 8th of January, right here. In fact, what I should do is close this for a second and go back to, so I can really take people in visually. Go back to my 3D solar system viewer, and you're going to really see what happens from the perspective of Jupiter on this alignment. And here we go. Because Jupiter, of course, is the home of the Greco-Roman god Zeus Jupiter. And mythologically, we can say that mythologically, but we can actually see now, because we've had a form of disclosure at the highest levels of the US government, that we've got a reality of UFO phenomena. We've got alien bodies and craft, and it's all been disclosed. So here we go. So where's Jupiter? There's Jupiter. It's on the other side. So we're going to swing around here. Are you able to see what I'm doing here, Michael?
Yes.
Okay. So now we're going to go to January the 8th, which is the Orthodox position of Christmas for Egypt. You see the alignment? Well, sorry, I just got all whacked out there. Let's go back here. Put my cursor. See? Mars, Venus,
Wow.
Sun, Earth, Jupiter.
Oh my God.
That's Orthodox Christmas. And there's 3i Atlas heading towards Jupiter. So
Incredible.
it's really incredible because it's on that date. That's why. But also, and again, this is Loeb's original thesis, that the odds of, okay, look at the size of Jupiter's orbit here. It's just a shaving under 12 years to make one orbit. And when the date comes of March 16th.
Hello and welcome, everybody.
On the 16th of March, it reaches its closest position to Jupiter. And this March 16th in Islam is the Night of Power, which marks the date for 2-point-something billion Muslims when Muhammad received instructions from the Archangel Gabriel. Notice it's the Archangel Gabriel, the same as the messenger of the Mother Mary and Joseph to Jesus, that he starts teaching him to record the first verses of the Quran. So why is that happening on that date this year? And why, with Jupiter's enormous orbit, did 3i Atlas time itself to do this? To do this is remarkable, because it did it with Mars, it did it with Venus, and the Great Pyramid angles all the most important angles in the Great Pyramid to Earth on Western Christmas and Orthodox Christmas, and its closest passing day to Earth. So if I go a little further for Jupiter, and I come to when it crosses the actual orbit of Jupiter, sorry, this phone is. This actually is the 21st of March, and that is going to be an Easter date for many years. To see let me just close that. And so I'll go right now and I'll ask ChatGPT to tell me what years will Easter fall on March 22. You have about a 3-day window on all of these things. There you go. Catholic. March 23rd will be in 2285. Orthodox. March 22nd those are rare dates for Easter, actually. The 23rd and the 22nd are rare dates for Easter.
Wow. Yeah.
It's interesting because I might actually be falling on it. It's possible I might even get a Good Friday. So you're in the edge of Easter window. And the thing about Easter is it's on a lunar calendar. And that means it's fall. It wants Easter to be on a certain phase of the moon. But the real Easter, the first Easter, would have fallen on a star calendar accurately. And it would only match the lunar phase for Easter very, very rarely. Here you go. Orthodox. Those are Orthodox dates. Let me just show you, share a screen. We're definitely in the Easter window. So the point is there's really only one true date for Easter. The phase of the moon that Easter likes, we want it to fall on because of using a lunar calendar system. You're only going to have an accurate Easter it's going to be very rare, actually.
Yeah.
Whereas on the solar calendar and a true star calendar, which the ancient Egyptians used, they used the star Sirius, and star Sirius's heliacal rising is when the star Sirius was rising on the eastern horizon just before our sun rises. So you're just seeing the end of it. And that used to be, at the time of Christ, the 19th of July. But on our current calendar, it's actually in August for the Giza Plateau. But what you're seeing now is that when 3i Atlas crosses the orbit of Jupiter, so we don't know what the real date on a proper calendar is for the first Easter. I've done some calculations using ChatGPT, and you have to run it 3 times and get the same answer, or you don't really have it. And the problem with it is we don't actually, there's 3 possible years that he was born. So it can throw it off a bit. We don't really know. But Atlas might even be telling this. You see, so the Western Church, it says it'll never appear on the 20th to the 21st, but the 22nd and 23rd it will. And the Orthodox Church, March 22nd, 1913, 2014, 23rd, 2008, 2035. And again, this is only looking at recent. So that's very interesting. So 3i Atlas arrives at Jupiter on its closest date for Muslims on the night of power in Islam. But then when it crosses the orbit of Jupiter, it's going to be in Easter. It's inside the Easter window. So again, I did this for all the dates. Last time I was on your show, we went through all of the dates on the in and the out. So now I'll show you much deeper what happens at the with Jupiter, and then we're going to go into the miracle of the sun at Fatima and the 26-degree angle as well. So hang on just a second. And any questions as we're going along, just fire away. Feel free to cut me off because I tend to go really, You have any questions so far right now? Oh, your mic is muted.
There's another gentleman called Stefan Burns that pointed out that on the 19th, there was a huge Schumann resonance burst, and it came from 3i Atlas, who caused it. So there was a communication, and we know the Schumann resonance basically is, our brain is connected, Schumann resonance, the frequencies and so forth. So there could be, like we're talking about, a communication. So you're put all this information that you're putting out is absolutely incredible. Obviously, there's been advanced systems here on Earth before that were evidently destroyed, and 3i Atlas may be coming in to communicate to bring us back up to speed. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the human system is more sensitive than any piece of technology. Like, I think it's interesting that we can, in the old days, help rabbit ears get a better signal of the baseball game or the news on an old TV. But we're more sophisticated than anything.
Wow.
I began having visions actually of Christ in Topanga, California in 1994 that were so powerful, and he was so blinding with light and love that just brought me to tears. That's what really got me on this mission I wanted to know the real truth. Like, I didn't want to just believe in what the church taught. I wanted to get right into the details. And because he said certain things to me, I was falling at his feet. I was unable to stand. I'm looking up at him. Oh my God, he's so holy, so powerful. You can't even physically stand up in his presence. It's just the power of the Spirit just knocks you to the ground. It humbles you because you can't handle looking at a source of love and supernatural qualities that we don't even have words for, because there's way more than love coming from Christ. I mean, the creation is coming from him and in his resurrected form. So those meetings happened, and I actually wrote books about my experiences, which I have on a website called David Sereda Writes, which I can show people, later. And that's why I'm so deeply passionate about this. Like, I just want to know the truth. Was Jesus married? Was he not? Who was he really? Why was he so powerful when I saw him? I saw him in 1994 on the 19th of October, which is a very powerful date. I saw him in Easter morning, 97. And then I saw him again in the year 2000. And then I eventually saw Mother Mary. Each of these visits just knocks you to the ground. There's so much love, and I'm turned into like a little boy crying my eyes out in my mother's arms when I'm having these experiences. So it can take a full-grown man and just rip your heart open and show you who you really are. And that's why I'm in this so hard.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I've had similar experiences with Archangel Michael. That love frequency is just stunningly. It does make you cry quite a bit. It makes a grown man cry. But yeah, that's fantastic. I just ordered your book on Conversations with Jesus. That looks fantastic. So I look forward to.
I have a new rewrite of it it's on David Sereda Writes. Here, let me just show people that. I think because we'll go off topic.
Yeah, great.
So hang on a second. I'll go to my website because I have two websites, my technology, and then I have my books. So here we go. And let me just go to the share screen button again. And well, that's incredible. I met Archangel Michael once in Maui, and enormously powerful.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah, definitely changed my life. Saw him when I was in a combat zone in Iraq. So
wow. Oh my God.
Definitely gave me some abilities, that I didn't have before after that experience. And that's part of, kind of like you, been part of my awakening and sharing that as well.
See, when you have an experience like that, doesn't it just knocks you off of the traditional path? Like, you actually met him in a combat zone. And were you knocked unconscious, or how did it happen?
Yeah, I was, I thought I was having an out-of-body experience, and I was like, oh, I heard you just look back at your body, and, it gives you a little bit more, power to, do things with it, and out-of-body experience. So I looked down, and I saw that I was dead. I was in pieces. I'd been blown up because they've been attacking us for quite some time, but they'd never been successful. So I was like, that's it. I'm floating out of my body. My soul's out of my body.
Oh my
then
God.
I had some kind of attraction, and I look up, and there's Archangel Michael. And just before I saw him, I thought, oh wow, it really could help humanity, because I was using my remote viewing to keep my team safe and that kind of stuff. And so I looked into his eyes, and this love energy just came into my body and just like lit up every cell in my body. And then boom, back in time, back in my body. The explosion happened at a distance. And I was like, oh, wow, that angel saved me. So then I figured out that it was Archangel Michael later. But yeah, quite experience. And it took me many years. I wrote about it in a book, The Intuitive Warrior. It took me many years to basically talk about it. And even when I talk about it, I would be in tears just remembering the love energy that came through.
The love energy and the power. Like when I looked at Christ, so I saw 7 basic rays of energy. First was innocence. He's more innocent than billions of children, which is the openness and the purity. And through that openness, all the love and the power of the creation shone through Christ.
Wow.
And geometries and wisdom and literally what the energies that cause things to manifest in the creation. And the highest energies were graces that were very feminine energies, actually, like millions of leaves falling in perfect synchronicity, this absolute perfection energy. And it's all hitting me at once. So looking at his feet, looking up at him, and I'm sure the archangel is radiating this incredible power of God that you saw. And the power part is supposed to be used to bring things into balance and the harmony of the order and justice. And that's what we're missing in our world, is this incredible justice. So yeah, my books are here. Mona Lisa's Little Secret, which is an extension of it. Visions, Conversations with Jesus is the new edition, which is a rewrite of the previous version. The previous version was stolen by the publisher from me, and he never ever gave me a single payment towards the sales over a couple of decades. So because I've had more visions,
yeah, it's frustrating. I've had people on talking about how these I call them the deep state basically steals our work and profits off us because they don't have that connection to creativity like we do.
Yeah, it's amazing how much stuff I've had stolen. I've had my coil business stolen. I've had my movie with Dan Aykroyd with the first distributor. Dan Aykroyd Unplugged on UFOs was stolen. So I recut it. It's actually on Amazon Prime for American viewers only. Right now, you can just search Dan Aykroyd Unplugged on UFOs on Prime Video, and the new edit of that is there. And these 2 books here are available. So, because that's kind of like where we're going here. We're talking about this a bit, so it doesn't hurt to bring that up. Were you able to see that on the screen when I had it up? Or
oh yeah.
Okay.
I look forward to reading those. That's great.
Okay.
All of your work. I mean, you're searching your website is like I feel like a kid in a candy store. All the information that you have in there, all the wands and the scepters and everything. It's like in how you reset all the different throughout time. They had like you talked about the perfect cubic length. You went to great lengths to figure out what that was. Moses had one, of course, and then Jesus talked about it. All of the greats talk about it, and I was like, oh, that's that wine stuff must be something, But you basically have done it. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I when Jesus said in Mark 6:8 that when he dispersed the apostles, that no money in your purse, no bread, just your staff, that put absolute importance on the staff and the training they must have undergone to use the staff, to actually use it. I really, really studied, and going back again to Moses and Aaron, and the reason we know the length of the staff, it's 2.5 cubits because it lay in the Ark of the Covenant. I mean, that's in the book of Hebrews in the Bible. There's only one clue on how long it could be. But if you have the wrong cubit, you're going to make it the wrong frequency. And if you go back to the time of Christ, those are super beautiful ones. The small one on the left is mine. That's my personal staff with the
fantastic
in it. And those other ones have real sapphires in them. Actually, in the Jewish books of creation and the Talmud, the staff of Aaron and Moses were sapphire. They had 7 sapphires in them. And of course, the throne of God in Ezekiel is a sapphire throne. And so sapphires are incredibly, incredibly powerful gems. And they're also very expensive. So those are real ones in those pictures, but I couldn't even afford one myself that big, that real. So I use, high quality European lab grown sapphires, which technically are sapphires under the microscope. And then also I use real ametrines and amethyst. I mean, whatever people want. But once you work with one, you see why he didn't just encourage them. He said, no money in your purse, no bread, no script, just your staff.
Wow.
And that's Mark. And Mark's gospel is the first, canonized gospel. We may as well say canonized because there were a lot of gospels circulating around the empire. And again, the Egyptian Christians are really among the very earliest actual Christians documented, and they hold in the Coptic Christian church some of the oldest wisdom, even of Jesus's childhood. His real name doesn't have a J because there's no J in Aramaic. His real name is actually Isa with a very soft S. And the Yeshua is kind of a bit of a myth because the vowel schwa is only pronounced There is no schwa sound for the vowel schwa. It's called the vowel schwa, but I actually looked up phonetically how do you actually pronounce the schwa vowel in the spelling of his name. So it's technically Yisa with a very soft S. So you can see how it became. So his real name, and for many countries in the world today, is actually just spelled Isa with a soft S, which is very similar to the goddess Isis, right? It's very similar. And that's, again, because the region is actually historically was full of temples of worship to the goddess Isis, going all the way up into Syria, and which is where the Aramaic language comes from Syria. There's actually a town there. Let me show you people this town, because I'm going to go into something. How much time do we have left?
Take all the time you need. It's like
okay, so let's go to
good information.
Ain Isa. Okay, here it is. This is really amazing. Look at this. Because when you're looking for the real Jesus, I mean, I just want to know the truth. Remember, I'm not trying to make stuff up, people. I'm just trying to go back in history and just show me where it really is. Because, okay, so this town it's in Syria. Remember, that's where the Aramaic language comes from. So this is just above what we call the Palestine today on the map.
Wow.
And this is the spelling of his name. Ain Isa. I, Jesus, right? Again, there's no J. It doesn't exist at the time period we're talking about. It's basically, because the Yisa sound is so similar for a Roman speaking Latin to produce a J sound that it just becomes a J over the history of language. But this is really the evidence of a Syrian location where they still have the spelling of his name. And it's also how many countries in the world actually spell it. So it's just a fact. So
that's incredible. I know that he spent some time, or I don't know, but there's rumors that he spent time in the Himalayas, and they said they call him Isa as well.
That's right. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Because when you search, again, philology is like the history of a word. So you see how a word, even Jerusalem doesn't have a J. It's Jerusalem. There is no J in Jerusalem. So if you go now, this is where I have my huge angles project, which is this project is so massive. You're going to understand that when 3i Atlas is exhibiting these angles, we're going to start to see what it really means. Okay, so here we go. So I can actually start here. So let me go to share screen again and take you to my super angles project. So again, if 3i Atlas is not intelligent and it's just a comet, why is it exhibiting these angles I'm about to share with you on these dates? So again, on Orthodox Christmas, it will be 39 degrees to Earth, between 38 and 39 degrees. Again, you can't see the difference between 1 degree on a protractor, even over large distances. So this 38 degree angle, leaving the Great Pyramid, actually goes all the way to the Pyramid of the Sun, right here, in Mexico. You see that?
Yep.
And just a little bit past it is where Juan Diego, the Mexican Indian, December 12, 1531 was winter solstice. So it's actually the same moment in cosmogony, space and orbital positions as today's date. So he has a vision of the Mother Mary, and of course the leaders of the church in his time period of the Catholic Church didn't believe him. So she imprints her image on the cactus fiber cloth, which is known as the tilma today, where over 20 million people visit this church where it actually happened. So why is it at 39 degrees? So if I take this line and I come all the way out and I go all the way around the Earth, that angle when I left the Great Pyramid is what's known as the resurrection angle. So we saw a resurrected person, Mother Mary, appearing at that angle. And that same angle actually here is where Mary Magdalene's boat, her and her followers, and quite possibly her children, were put on a boat by the Romans in the sea, right here, right in what we call Israel today. And without a sail or a rudder, her boat traveled on the 39 degree line and it landed in the south of France here, just past Marseille.
Wow.
And here they have the physical remains of her skeleton. The Christians in France actually celebrate the arrival of Mary Magdalene to this location every year in the month of May. So why is she at that 38, 39 degree angle? Very interesting. What force guided her boat to go there? Now we can see that same 39 degree angle to the east. So you have east is where planets and stars rise on the eastern horizon and set in the western horizon. So we know that it's not a grid line on the ground. It's actually tracking something in the heavens. So also at that 39 degree angle from the Great Pyramid, you see this red balloon here.
Mm-hmm.
The Virgin Mary, the Coptic Church, where in 1968 the Mother Mary appeared in a glowing resurrected body of light, photographed, seen by millions of people. I'm going to show people, for people who don't know about the Zaytun apparitions, but they occurred at the 38, 39 degree angle, and so does where Jesus appeared 3 times in his resurrected body at the 39 degree angle at the Sea of Galilee up here. So why do you have a resurrected person appearing at Egyptian resurrection angle, which is the complementary angle of the Great Pyramid? Well, right in this location, right here, in the year 2009 was the first discovery. They found the temple synagogue of Mary Magdalene's family, who owned all the fishing vessels. They were a very wealthy family. Magdala actually means the tower. They found the remains of an early Jewish synagogue in which is the hometown of Mary Magdalene. So we know she was never a prostitute. In fact, the Catholic Church in 1969 the Pope reversed their position that she was a former prostitute. They know they made a mistake. No, she wasn't. She was not. The former prostitute never became a disciple of Jesus. It's Magdala was from, in fact, good scholars know that her family actually financed the traveling of the apostles and staying in inns and lodges while they were spreading the gospel. So why is this temple discovered in 2009 and then a second temple discovered in 2021. This is incredibly recent at the same site. So why is it 39 degrees to the Great Pyramid? And why did Jesus appear 3 times in the Sea of Galilee and walk on water there, right? So this is where he walked on the water. And then, of course, when we go to the 26-degree angle, remember, Atlas has exhibited both of these angles, both of them. The 26-degree angle from the Great Pyramid runs right through the birthplace of Christ here in Bethlehem, which was Peter de Miseri's discovery in the Great Pyramid decoded. So I decided to take the angle further to see if it would run through where he was baptized, and it does. It runs right through it. The exact position of where John the Baptist baptizes Jesus is right here. It's right here. 26 degrees. So again, it's tracking the real star of Bethlehem, which I know what that is. It's not Jupiter. It's a hyperdimensional planet, because when I go to of the angels, when I go to actually, you know what we can do, Michael? We can map exactly where your experience happened with the Archangel Michael. If you give me the Latin long, we can do that later.
Okay.
I can map it. So 26 degrees to the west, the setting position of the real star Bethlehem caused an eclipse of the sun October 13th, 1917, right here. Right here. The miracle of the sun at Fatima. And no astronomer has ever resolved this, because they don't know how what really looks by description to be an annular eclipse, meaning whatever eclipsed the sun was smaller than the moon. So you could see a ring of colors, which is what we see in annular type eclipses when the moon appears smaller due to its distance to the earth, and you get a ring type of eclipse. That's exactly what people saw, but there was no lunar solar eclipse that day. It didn't exist. So what eclipsed the sun? Well, it's at 26 degrees. And guess, because we were talking about power outages earlier today, this is just the beginning of this enormous angle project, because what happened last summer was right there. I'm going to show you what it is. It's called the Great Iberian Power Outage, which was never resolved. So let's go to look at this, because we started today talking about power outages. As Atlas, and these outages are happening, like you said, even in San Francisco, Bethlehem, New Jersey. So this happened. Nobody noticed this. This is really, really incredible. Watch. So the Iberian Peninsula blackout happened last 28th of April. And it was such a huge blackout. People were stuck in elevators. This wasn't a 3-hour blackout. It was huge. And it ran right through mainland Portugal. So it covered this whole area. And the date is the 28th of April. Now watch. So let's mark that date. And let's go to ChatGPT. It's really good at doing this. What years will Easter appear on April 28th? Of course, I want to know Orthodox too. So April 28th only appears on the Orthodox calendar. So I'll say yes, Orthodox dates, years. Oh my God, look at this. Huge. Okay, so here we go. Remember, when Three Eye Atlas is at Orthodox Christmas, we're going to have this huge alignment with Jupiter. So look at this. Look at how many years on the Orthodox calendar, all these years are dates for Easter. 1901, 1912. Remember, the miracle of the sun was in 1917, 1923, 1934, 1945, 56, 67, 78. This is clearly an Easter date. Future 2033. Look, it was Easter on 2022. So nobody noticed this. The Great Iberian Power Outage, which was never resolved, is the extremely common date for Easter on the Orthodox calendar. So, and it's 26 degrees intersects the epicenter of where the outage occurred, which I believe was a signal coming from, because I know which planet, hyperdimensional planet in my model is doing this, which actually is the ascension planet of Christ, which I think I've shown this before, but I can just bring this up for a minute and then we could go to some questions. Because the reason this is important is because we'll see in a minute here. The epicenter bullseye of 3i Atlas, I actually was able to do this, was the epicenter of my hyperdimensional model. So let's go, here it is, right here. Okay, so this is, again, we talked about this last time. My wife gave me this.
Yeah.
I might name it 591 days after she died. And 591 divided by the golden ratio was the orbit of Earth. Divided by the golden ratio again was Venus. Divided by the golden ratio was this number here, 139.51.
Wow.
And divided by the golden ratio again is Mercury. So what I did is I built a model using this formula that my wife gave me, which gives me the orbits of the known visible planets, and it also gives me the orbits of angels, archangels, which is what you saw, principalities, powers, virtues, dominions, thrones, cherubim, and seraphim. In fact, the frequencies for these planets, which is a huge amount of math, it's taken me years, is what I just transmitted in the beginning of our show, which actually took about 45 minutes, and I just sent it out through my tree network. So the bullseye of 3i Atlas was a smidgen away from my 591 position. Why does 591 divided by the golden ratio give me the orbit of Earth and all of the planets? To a degree of accuracy that is very high. It's not 100% in all positions, but why does it do that? And why, when I asked ChatGPT to actually create, let me see if I can find this in my chat, because I've actually done this. I actually asked Chat to create an orbit. Here we go. This was my diagram. First, I'll show the diagram again. I mean, just got to find my. Okay, so we saw the Easter dates on the Iberian power outage, where it's just perfectly timed. See, this is the stuff astronomers are not going to see. So it turns out that I asked Chat to create, see my turquoise circle there, is inside the orbit of Mars and outside the orbit of Earth. Earth is 365.256 days. Mars is 686.98 days. And I told Chat to create this hypothetical orbit, and using a ruler, I came up with the date October 23rd when it would intersect this hypothetical orbit. And it turns out I was right. Using a ruler, Chat said, and that's my daughter Alira's birthday, who turned 15 this October 23rd, right? And this October 23rd, it came a smidgen away from this hypothetical orbit. And then I asked ChatGPT, when it reached perihelion, which is when it was closest to the sun, how close was it to hypothetical planet 591? See, and it was so close. The math was like, it just flew right next to it. And remember, whatever caused the miracle of the sun at Fatima, which is my planet 139 in this model, I proven that math perfectly. I can show people this. Any questions?
Yeah. So what it seems is like, you've striven to have that connection to God.
Mhm.
Yeah, ever since your childhood. Your dad was amazing at that, obviously. So that conscious connection. Do you think that conscious connection is what is leading all of these events and these angles and everything to be in the perfect alignment?
Well, see, I think, okay, let's say Three Eye Atlas is a rock. I can go back to the Old Testament where God wants an altar to the Lord God to be built out of an uncarved rock at the center of the temple of worship. You don't lay a tool upon it. This is the place of worship, is an unhewn, uncarved stone, right? So what I say is, what are the odds of that, right? And of Three Eye Atlas possibly being a rock, but that the consciousness, you can call it God, the grand organizing designer, is actually orchestrating everything it's doing, which is consciousness, which is
Right.
dominion over consciousness, right? So that's why it is possible that it is a rock. And in fact, William Tiller, the Stanford scientist, and I knew him, and I got to really interview him and study his work, who has since passed away, proved with scientific experiments that consciousness operates at a wavelength smaller than gamma rays, meaning it's more powerful than gamma rays. And gamma rays are the most powerful force in the electromagnetic spectrum that we understand. They're more powerful than anything, more powerful than X-rays. So if consciousness becomes focused, it can tell a physical thing what to do, kind of like the Force in Star Wars. So if Three Eye Atlas is exhibiting all these angles with the jets and this new astronomer footage that came out actually yesterday by trying to remember the guy's name. He's got this huge telescope, and he's got it on Three Eye Atlas on the 19th when it was closest to Earth, and it's changing color, and it's sending out jet angles in different directions every single photograph, which a comet cannot do. It cannot keep spitting out angles and right angle and then no angle and then another angle. It can't do that. And I'm surprised Avi Loeb didn't get access to this new video that's circulating. And again, if it is a rock, and of course it's made out of a type of nickel, we know this from Avi Loeb's reports that you can only manufacture. We don't see it naturally occurring. Then it's got a power cast upon it that's controlling it. As simple as that. So that means what we're seeing is a message, and the message about the angles is reflective of the birthplace of a messianic figure, which is Christ at 26 degrees. But it's way bigger than even that. Mm-hmm. And that's because I'm starting to figure out more and more and more about this 26 degree angle and the 39 degree angle and what they really mean. So in this article here on my Medium blog, I go into again, this is the 26 degree angle. This is a picture from Le Mesurier's book in the 70s. He shows the arrow crossing the River Jordan, but he just doesn't note that Jesus is baptized on that exact spot.
Wow.
On the River Jordan, right? And here I am on what's it called, on Google Earth, and I'm confirming him. And there's also this Maresha, another synagogue that's so close to the same angle. The Maresha synagogue is a huge discovery in my work. And there we see the 26 degree angle going to the west, running right through Fatima, where the miracle of the sun happened. So that means there are planetary positions in our heavens that we don't understand. So the first day of Fatima was actually the 13th of May, when the Mother Mary first appears to the three children. And what the witnesses actually see is on the 13th of the month, for 5 months, she will continuously appear to them to give them messages, including this secret of Fatima, the great secret of Fatima, which I believe the Catholic Church never faithfully revealed. So when I go on my calculator, see, you look on my model, this planet 139.516, actually, that means it takes that many days to go around the sun on our calendar. And we always mark our calendar from the winter solstice or winter perihelion. So what I do is I go in here and I take December 25th plus 139 days and I come to May 13th, 1917. That's the first day she appeared to the children. So it's perfect to my model. It's 139 days from December 25th.
Incredible.
Perfect. I mean, if that is conclusive proof right there. Now, when the miracle of the sun happens, it actually turns out to be, these are descriptions here of what people actually saw. So when the miracle of the sun actually happens is the on the Orthodox calendar. So January 7th, 8th is Orthodox Christmas. So I calculate 2 orbits of 139.5, which gives me 279 days, gives it the date of the miracle of the sun, October 13th. So it just had to do 2 orbits. The first orbit was the first day that Mother Mary appeared to the children, and the second orbit was the actual miracle of the sun itself. But they just happened to transit the sun in a perfect angle of alignment, just the way solar eclipses do. They don't appear for everybody on the earth, that you have a town that is in the epicenter of that transiting of that planet between the sun and the earth. But this is the planet we don't know about. And this is essentially what it would look like. This is Earth. This is Venus. And this is planet 139.516, which is between the orbit of Mercury and Venus. And all the dates line up perfectly. So this story here matters because in the most recent congressional hearing on UAP UFOs, I watched this hearing live, which was this past October 9th. The first case they brought up was at Vandenberg Air Force Base, this huge football field size red square. This is my AI depiction based on the instructions, was on the 14th of October 2003, which is, of course, only one day from the anniversary of the miracle of the sun at Fatima.
Wow.
See? So it shows you that on these dates, on certain years, it's like a portal opens between us and the invisible hyperdimensional. And the portal opens and it closes and it opens and it closes. And we're just starting. In fact, astronomers are just catching wind of this phenomenon now.
Wow.
They're actually looking at old photographs on telescopes from the 1950s, like the Palomar Observatory in San Diego, and they're seeing whole planetary sized objects and what may be stars. They don't know what they are. They're there, and then they take a picture 15 minutes later and they're gone. They're not UFOs because the exposures are like 45 minutes long. I've actually got pictures of those. And then
hyperdimensional, pretty impressive.
Hyperdimensional planets. So when these planet portals open up, we get a lot of UFO activity down here. And then the portal seems between us and that dimension closes, and then we don't get any activity. So if we study the cycles mathematically of these, we can then know when to expect activity. I'll show you here when I can find, because I know I put them in one of my articles here.
This is so fascinating. God, the way you weave everything in together like this. Wow. Oh my God, it's amazing.
That's amazing. Like when you really want to know the answer to something and you got time on your hands and you get a bit older and you figure, I mean, what am I going to do with my life, right? I just want to know. Nobody solved the miracle of the sun at Fatima. In fact, I think I've solved it.
I think so.
So remember, this was the angles presented on the 29th of November in this image of Atlas. You can see it very faintly in this image here. You can see the angular streaks. And this is what I was looking for. So this is the 52-degree angle between the two streaks. This is Atlas in the center. And this is 42 to 43 degrees in this angle here. And so on a solar calendar, I was able to put 42 to 43 degrees in when the sun rises and sets at this angle. And it's November 20th to the 23rd, which is right in the window when that photograph was taken, which again proves that there's no way this could have been some sort of, streaking accident, because this angle, just like if you were to use a sundial, but you're doing it at the Giza Plateau, happens to be within the date that the photo was actually taken on the left side. And the right-hand side, on the right-hand side, we get the date for winter solstice to Christmas on the bottom. And then on the top, we get the summer solstice date right here. So I think this is really huge. The very fact that sunrise is happening in the summer at summer solstice between the Great Pyramid in Bethlehem and the Jerusalem Temple complex, and then at Christmas, winter solstice, from Bethlehem and Jerusalem Temple, it's setting at the three pyramids. I mean, that should turn Christianity on its ear. It means there's something we don't know. There's something huge. There's some very phenomenal connection to Egypt that we lost.
Yeah.
In the religion, like map of Egyptian empire at the time of Moses. I just want people to see this, so that this is what it really looked. This is a good one here. Okay, so this is, putting yourself in the perspective. And of course, we watch Hollywood movies and we think that's a history lesson, and because we see Charlton Heston with a wooden staff. So there you go. All of this is the Palestine right in here. And even the light green is Egyptian Empire. You see how it goes all the way into Syria?
Yeah.
Which is where the Ain of Isa, the town that's named the Eye of Jesus, Ain Isa, is right up in here. This is where his language of Aramaic comes from. All of this is Egypt. All of it. So that means we can expect the influences of the Egyptian religion to be highly influential in the earliest understandings of the Hebrew, the forming of the Hebrew religion, and the divisions thereof. All these religions they're not like a perfect nucleus where everyone agrees. There's a lot of fighting. There's a lot of ideas on what God really is. It's not like all the earliest Jews were, in the same point in understanding the meaning of what God really is. And it's the same with the earliest Christians. I mean, they were all debating and arguing what the meaning of the message is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, during the Moses time frame, it seems like there was a cataclysmic event, and that might have brought down the Egyptians quite a bit. So,
yeah,
there's talk of like this planetary body that comes through Nibiru, and,
right.
We've heard about that. So there's kind of a little correlation people are making with Three-Eye Atlas, obviously much smaller, I believe. But what are your thoughts on because I think Three-Eye Atlas is definitely bringing an upgrade for humanity's consciousness, and then other times in history it's been basically knocking us back quite a bit.
Well, when I did my calculation, starting with my wife's number 591 times the golden ratio, and I keep going, I ended up with the orbit of Nibiru, accurate to like 99.7%, which
Wow.
was, according to Sitchin, approximately 3,600 years. So yeah, I just take that number, and so I say, okay, I can actually demonstrate this so people can see how I did it. Let's go to my calculator right here. So I just take the number 591 times 1.618033987 to go to the outer solar system, and I just keep going. And I get this number, and then I get, that's actually dwarf planet Ceres' orbit. That's a shaving away from Jupiter's orbit.
Wow.
That's like 99% of Saturn's orbit. And I'm just going to keep going.
Incredible.
Way out there. And actually, some of these numbers will pass, like this number here will pass. Wait, what am I at here? I'm at 2 million. Wait a second. I went one too far. Divided by 1.618. These are in days. So this number here in days, I just have to divide this by the number of days in an Earth year, 365.256. You see how close that is to 3,600 years?
Yeah. Wow.
So if I take this divided by 3,600, what did I just do? Divided by 3,600 years, I can see my accuracy is 99.19% of the orbit of Nibiru, which wasn't exactly 3,600 years according to Sitchin. It was approximately. So
right.
How did that happen? Like it means that even Nibiru could be in a hyperdimensional orbit, which means it hasn't entered these higher dimensional planets, which seem to dip into our dimension periodically, which is what they're observing in these telescopes, right? Is something
like that. That makes a lot of sense. Wow. Interesting.
Explains a lot about UFOs, right? They come in and they go out. Let me go to
brilliant work. Good job.
So if we go to the Zaytun apparitions at 39 degrees from the Great Pyramid to the west in 1968. Just want people to see this because I forgot this. Here's an image of Mother Mary above the church, taken in black and white. You see that? And this is the New York Times article. It was in the New York Times, 1968. 2 million people saw her. Millions. This is her hovering above the church, right? And people are praying to her. They're getting healed. But this is a resurrected person caught on camera in the New York Times. Why doesn't everybody know about this? And this is what's in the sky above. UAP. UFOs.
Incredible.
Are they metallic craft? We don't know. But that story is so well documented in the Egyptian world and in the Coptic Christian churches. If I could get access to the original photographs in really high quality, I have read and seen documentaries on this and what people saw. It went on for almost 3 years. I've actually mapped the first date of the apparition and the end date, and I know which planets she's coming in and going out on. And I did this for a number of Marian apparitions, like at Medjugorje in Bosnia, and I did it for the Juan Diego apparitions in Mexico, and you start to see a pattern. So I'm interested in when the portal opens and we see activity and then it closes. So is something about to happen? When people, they want to prove 3i Atlas is the mothership, they want it to meet them on their terms, but they're obviously way more advanced than us.
Yeah.
And so they're showing us a lesson on a chalkboard, and people want to see a flashing light. They want to see it become as bright as the Star of Bethlehem. But in a lot of ways, I mean, what it's done with the angles is better than a bright light going off. I mean, that's you could call that high entertainment value, but it's giving us an incredible lesson here. And I've archived everything. Where this goes next is so huge. I mean, I'm sitting on a tip of an iceberg. We'd have to do another event when I'm ready to come out with the next part. And of course, what Avi Loeb has proven is that Jupiter, all planets have what's called a Hill radius, which is like a gravitational well shaped like this. So if you put a bowling ball on a trampoline, this is how you kind of simulate an experiment on gravity. and it pulls the fabric down, and you throw in some marbles. They spin around like planets, and they slowly fall into the center of gravity. It's called the Hill radius is the edge of the hill where the gravity of a planet extends out to. So Jupiter's Hill radius, it turns out, and this is Avi Loeb's research, 3I Atlas adjusted itself ever so slightly at perihelion when it was closest to the sun on October the 29th, and it's heading right for the Jupiter Hill radius.
Wow.
That can't be an accident.
Oh.
And yet, in looking at his post in the last 2 days, he seems like, I know what it's like to work with real, scientists. They're like kids. I mean, he seems like a crying baby because he wanted it to do something spectacular at Earth, which it did, but because he doesn't believe in religion and doesn't believe, and whoever built the Great Pyramid knew what they were doing, he doesn't even look at data like I have.
Yeah.
It did do something spectacular. It did send us a message.
Yeah.
Will it send out smaller craft at Jupiter? And he's actually believes this. He's written this on his own blogs. And his little tantrum, he feels like it doesn't care about Earth, but it sure cares about Jupiter because it's going for the Hill radius of Jupiter. And it will reach there on the 16th of March, which is in Islam is the night of power. So when I look at the religious dates, I see a harmony.
Yeah.
If I only had 1 or 2 religious dates in the whole, the whole journey of 3I Atlas, I would say that's probably coincidence. But actually, I've got way too many of them. So it seems to know. And I'm excited where it's going, what it might do at Jupiter. Are there gods living on the moons of Jupiter and we don't even know? And that's a big question because we now know from these congressional hearings. It's funny when this stuff hits the news, people don't seem to flip out. They don't seem to notice. But this news came from Representative Tim Burchett. He was on Fox News. He was on a couple of news networks saying we've now identified at least 3 ET or breakaway civilization, or they remnants of the gods, bases under our oceans, and they know where they are. They know where these craft are coming in and out of in the ocean. And there's a base down there under the ocean. You would think everyone would be flipping out over that and want to have a big dialogue about it, and just nothing. Like nothing. Nobody seems to care. And have you seen the new trailer for Spielberg's new movie?
No.
Oh my God, you got to see it. He's got over 30 million views.
Oh, good.
On his new movie coming out in I think it's June 16. Spielberg new movie trailer. Oh my God, this is it. Oh, this is it. You got to see this. It's only 2 minutes. We could, is it okay to play this, or are we going to get?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's got over 30 million views. Let me see if I can get share screen. Window. Also share. Here it is. Disclosure day. Also share audio. There we go. And look at this. This is really powerful, what he's done. Okay, here we go.
Wow. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, Close Encounters of the Third Kind was my favorite movie. I even show it to my youngest daughter. I mean, for me, that movie was so powerful. But you can see what he's doing there. Like, if the power of consciousness, as William Tiller demonstrated, can tell a comet what to do, it can even tell a comet to end life on Earth if it wants to. And 3I Atlas is, well, it doesn't seem to be behaving like any comet we know of. But are there alien beings on it in a giant city? That is yet to be, proven or disproven. But it doesn't matter. Meaning, what this film is kind of demonstrating is this woman, this news, weather reporter, this alien being, it overtakes her.
Yep.
And it starts speaking in its own language through her. Is very feasible. Very, very feasible. And we don't know what Spielberg's going to do with this, but he's calling this the day of disclosure, and everything is going to be revealed. And they say 7 billion people. Actually, there's 8 billion people now. So I guess his writing team forgot the total of Earth is actually 8 billion now.
That's fascinating because I saw Avatar 3 last night, and you mentioned the mycelium and the trees and so forth communicating. And in that movie, they have a scene where one of the humans that was interacting with the ET, the blue ETs, he had a mask, and his mask battery runs out, so he's dying. And so they hook him up into the mycelium of the planet, and it basically allows him to start breathing the planet's air. So very, very fascinating.
There's a 3. There's an Avatar 3.
Yeah, it just came out.
Oh no, I have to see it. Because what I've done, Michael, I took 300 feet of wire coming into my office in the feedback. So I've got wires going in with my coil systems attached to the trees, and I send in coded messages as frequencies. And when you send in a pattern of frequencies, you've got a language, which is what I've been able to develop. And I know which planet I can talk to based on a set of coded frequencies. I can connect with Neptune, one of Neptune's moons. I know how to do it just through numbers, because numbers build word, and word is logos. So the wires coming in, I can measure voltage coming in from the trees, and then I connected them to my feet, and that's how. There's 2 ways to receive. We can receive through the bioelectric field of the tree, so just being around the tree. Remember Jesus praying in the Garden of Gethsemane on the olive trees, and the Buddha gets enlightened under the Bodhi tree.
Good point. Yeah.
And so I can just like the movie Avatar, I can connect a person through my feedback system with the wires sending the voltage coming out of my trees is comparable to the voltage on the human body. So I can measure the millivolts on the human body. If I could find my voltmeter around here, I could kind of show you. See, I've got my plants all wired up. I've got plant music.
Oh, wow. Great.
But then I've also got my trees wired outside. So I can get the feedback, the message in return by putting these wires into somebody's feet. I have a course on my website that teaches people how to do this. I mean, they just have to go. My website's right here, davidsereda.co, and people can see my products and how I'm building this network. So I'm not just listening to the plant music. I'm actually able to send in a message. Right?
Incredible. So I was watching on your YouTube. You have a show, Anti-Aging, Biohacking, and Wellness Technology. And you show some of the Tesla patent technology that you've been studying. This is phenomenal.
Yeah, those are my cubes there. Those are 3 different sizes. I had them all stacked together. I have one of those next to my bed, which is right there in that video.
Wow.
And I run these frequencies before bed.
Oh my God.
And I've had so many experiences, like what's actually happened to me since I've been doing the frequencies of the hyperdimensional planets of the angels. This is for real. I didn't channel these numbers. I mathematically calculated them. And I've in that half in, half out state where you're half asleep and half awake. Suddenly I see this bright light. It's like the sun, but it's actually the middle of the night. And I'm going out of body, and I can see these glowing planets rising in the east. And then when I come back in my body, I don't see it anymore, and I'm in 3D reality. It's pitch black. So it's not the sun. It's not the moon. And I've been able to make contact with these planets of the angels about 5 times since I started working with these frequencies. So they're available for anybody to work with. You can work with them with sound alone, which can be effective if you're really sensitive, but using my coils, the frequencies go magnetically far deeper into a person than working with sound. But again, some people don't want to invest the money in a system that expensive. It's fine. It's just that the frequency, see, Earth has a frequency, Neptune has a frequency, the moon has a frequency, Venus has a frequency, which is based on its wavelength. And once you know the wavelength, you just take the speed of light divided by the wavelength, and you get the master frequency for that location, and then you build musical octaves around that, and you basically create a harmony. And then you can create what's called a ratio. So I can take the frequency pattern of Earth, which means Earth and its octaves, and I can blend that in with the frequencies of my target, which might even be a moon of Jupiter. I'm really interested in Jupiter's moons. I don't think 3i Atlas is doing anything with the planet. I think its mission is going to be with one or two of its moons. And that's where it's really going. And when 3i Atlas crosses Saturn's orbit, it's going to be the date the ancient Egyptians used for Sirius heliacal rising, which is the 19th to the 22nd of July. So next July 19th, 22nd, it will be crossing the orbit of Saturn, but it won't be close to Saturn, but it'll be crossing its orbit on that magical day. And so there's a lot more ahead of us.
No doubt. Wow.
Yeah.
This has been incredibly fascinating. I encourage everybody to go to your website, davidsereda.com, and check all the information, all the toys you have there that we can play with. So I know you work with a lot of people and have over the years. So we appreciate you coming in and sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having me here, Michael. It's a great pleasure to be with you. I love your story about Archangel Michael. So maybe you can send me like coordinates, like a Latin long, when you know where you were, because I think I may be able to find that there's a portal nearby where you had your experience. Yeah. So anyway, have a great night.
You too.
Thank you. We'll be in touch. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas.
Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.